Lieutenant Commander Maya Rodriguez stared at the data stream flooding her neural interface, her augmented vision struggling to make sense of the fragmented transmission. Around her, the gleaming control center of Earth Fleet Command buzzed with activity, but none of her colleagues seemed to notice what she was seeing. "This isn't right," she muttered, fingers dancing through the holographic interface. "Computer, run emergency protocol analysis on incoming signal burst Delta 79. The computer's response was immediate. "Signal pattern matches no known Meridian Alliance communication protocols." "Exactly," Maya whispered, "because it's not supposed to." She'd spent 3 years studying alien communication methods, fascinated by how each species approached the concept of emergency differently. The Lumini, with their crystalline thought patterns, used elegant mathematical sequences. The Arcturans transmitted pure energy pulses. But this was different. Broken. Desperate. "Commander Chen," Maya called out, her voice cutting through the ambient chatter. "I need you to see this." Sarah Chen, newly promoted to commander of Earth's first response fleet, moved with practiced efficiency through the control room. Her cybernetic eye whirred softly, adjusting to focus on Maya's display. "Talk to me, Rodriguez. The signal's fragmented, but look at the pattern." Maya highlighted sequences in the data stream. "It's designed to be understood even if parts are lost. Like someone shouting pieces of a warning while running from something." Chen's expression hardened. "From what?" The answer came in a burst of data that turned every screen in the control center black. When they flickered back to life, a single image dominated them all. A world being consumed by living shadows, its cities crumbling as darkness itself seemed to feed on them. "The Void Dominion," Maya translated, her voice barely a whisper. "They're not just killing people. They're absorbing them, taking their knowledge, their technology, their very essence." The control center erupted into action. The Meridian Alliance, humanity's peaceful coalition of advanced alien species, had never faced a threat like this. They were diplomats, scholars, beings who had evolved past warfare millennia ago. But humanity remembered war. Within hours, Earth's fleet was mobilizing. Ships that the Alliance had called quaint and primitive powered up their nuclear cores. Rail guns were loaded with depleted uranium rounds, point defense systems came online, and crews ran battle drills they'd hoped never to use outside of simulations. Maya found herself transferred to the flagship, the ESS Thunderchild, her expertise in alien communications suddenly vital. As she rushed through the preparations, her neural interface pinged with a priority message from Alliance headquarters. The Lumini representatives were still debating the proper diplomatic response. The Arcturans were calculating potential peace offerings. But the final fragment of the distress signal told them there was no time for debate. Maya decoded it personally, her blood running cold as the meaning became clear. The Void Dominion had already consumed 3 worlds. Their victims' last moments were spent warning others, their dying thoughts captured in the broken transmission. They learn from what they consume. Each victory makes them stronger. They are coming. They cannot be reasoned with. They cannot be stopped. They err. The message ended there, but it had served its purpose. Humanity understood what their more evolved allies couldn't. Sometimes, survival meant fighting. Admiral Chen's voice echoed through every ship in the fleet. "All hands, battle stations. This is not a drill. The Meridian Alliance has called for aid, and Earth will answer. We may be the youngest members of their coalition. We may be what they call primitive, but today that works in our favor. While they debate, we act. While they calculate, we fight." Maya felt the Thunderchild's engines rumble to life, the obsolete nuclear power plant sending vibrations through the deck plates. Around them, 50 ships of Earth's first response fleet moved into formation. Their hulls weren't the seamless crystalline structures of Alliance vessels, but battle-scarred metal bearing the marks of countless training exercises. "Transit to Proxima Lumini in 5 minutes," the ship's AI announced. All hands, secure for hyperspace jump. Maya looked at the final decoded fragments of the distress signal one more time. Something about it nagged at her. The pattern wasn't just broken. It was deliberately shattered, as if the sender knew their transmission would be intercepted and had hidden additional information in the very way it was broken. As the fleet prepared to jump, she began a deeper analysis. If she was right, there was more to this invasion than even the Alliance realized. But that would have to wait. Right now, humanity had to do what it did best: stand and fight when no one else would. The hyperspace engines engaged, and Earth's fleet, the guardians of civilization it only recently joined, leaped into the unknown. They carried with them humanity's greatest weapons, not just their guns and ships, but their determination, their adaptability, and their experience with the one thing their advanced allies had forgotten: how to wage war to preserve peace. The Proxima Lumini system blazed into view as Earth's first response fleet dropped out of hyperspace. Admiral Sarah Chen's breath caught in her throat. Where there should have been crystalline cities floating in elegant orbital patterns, there were now writhing masses of darkness, consuming the bioluminescent structures of the jellyfish-like Lumini. Battle stations. Chen's order rang through the Thunderchild's command deck. All ships, combat formation Delta. Weapons free, shields at maximum. The fleet's 50 ships moved with practiced precision, their formation specifically designed to protect their primitive nuclear cores from energy-draining weapons. The Void Dominion's ships emerged from the shadows of Proxima Lumini's third moon, sleek, almost organic vessels that seemed to bend light around them. Enemy count, Chen demanded. 73 vessels detected. Lieutenant Rodriguez reported from her communication station. They're laughing at us, Admiral. Their communications indicate they consider our ships obsolete. Chen allowed herself a grim smile. Let's show them why obsolete doesn't mean ineffective. All ships, execute battle plan Thunderstrike. The human fleet split into 3 groups, a maneuver that would have been considered chaotic by Alliance standards. The Void Dominion ships moved to intercept, their energy weapons powering up with a signature that made the Thunderchild sensors scream. They're targeting our power systems, Rodriguez reported. Standard Alliance ship would be dead in space. Good thing we're not standard then. All ships, commence firing. The space between the fleets erupted in fury. Railed guns spat depleted uranium rounds at significant fractions of light speed, while point defense systems created walls of intercepting fire. The Void Dominion's energy shields, designed to stop plasma weapons and quantum disruptors, proved surprisingly vulnerable to kinetic impacts. Direct hits on multiple targets, Weapons Control reported. Their shields are failing. But the enemy adapted quickly. Their ships began moving in patterns that should have been impossible, bending space itself to avoid the human fleet's fire. That's when Chen saw it. The subtle shift in their formation that meant they were preparing their deadliest weapon. Brace for psychic assault. The attack came like a tidal wave of darkness. On Alliance ships, it would have overwhelmed their crews instantly. But human minds, tempered by millennia of warfare and hardship, proved more resilient. Combat drugs kicked in, neural dampeners activated, and crews trained in psychological warfare resistance pushed back against the alien influence. They're trying to access our combat databases, Rodriguez called out, her hands flying over her console. But they can't understand our encryption. They're calling it randomly organized. Chen understood. Human military protocols, developed through centuries of paranoia and competition, were paradoxically stronger than the elegant but predictable Alliance systems. Launch nuclear torpedoes, full spread. The missiles streaked across space, their warheads simple fusion devices that the Void Dominion's energy-based defenses couldn't neutralize. Several enemy ships vanished in artificial suns, while others were crippled by the electromagnetic pulses. But the battle was far from over. The remaining Void Dominion ships began to change, their hulls flowing like liquid metal as they adapted to the human attacks. They were learning, evolving in real time. Admiral, Rodriguez's voice was tense. "I'm detecting quantum fluctuations. They're trying to open rifts directly inside our ships." Chen had prepared for this. "Activate the gravity anchors. All ships, random drive signatures." The human fleet's inefficient use of artificial gravity suddenly became their salvation. The Void Dominion's quantum attacks, designed to take advantage of the precise gravitational fields used by Alliance ships, couldn't find purchase in the deliberately irregular fields generated by human vessels. The battle raged for hours, a testament to human endurance against supposedly superior foes. When the last Void Dominion ship finally retreated, dissolving into subspace, the human fleet had lost 12 ships. A painful toll, but far better than the total annihilation the enemy had expected. As rescue operations began, Chen received a priority transmission from a surviving Luminicity. The jellyfish-like beings were in awe. Their mathematical models had predicted complete defeat for such primitive vessels. Instead, humanity's supposed weaknesses, their redundant systems, their wasteful backup protocols, their illogical combat tactics, had proved to be their greatest strengths. But Chen's attention was on something else. During the battle, Rodriguez had intercepted fragments of the enemy's internal communications. What they revealed was troubling. The Void Dominion hadn't just been attacking. They'd been testing, analyzing, learning. And beneath their tactical exchanges was something else. Fear, not of humanity, but of something else, something waiting in the darkness between galaxies. As the fleet regrouped and began securing the Proxima Lumini system, Chen couldn't shake the feeling that this victory, impressive as it was, had only been the beginning. The real test was still to come, and humanity would need more than just their weapons and tactics to face it. They would need the one thing that truly set them apart in this galaxy of evolved beings: their ability to face the impossible and find a way forward, no matter the cost. Dr. James Okonjo's laboratory aboard the research vessel Curiosity hummed with holographic displays, each showing different aspects of comparative xenobiology. He'd been studying the data from the Battle of Proxima Lumini for weeks, but something still didn't add up. "Computer, overlay human stress response patterns with Lumini and Arcturan equivalents," he commanded, his augmented eyes tracking the resulting display. "Now add Void Dominion biological signatures from the captured debris." The patterns that emerged made him sit up straight. "Dear God," he whispered, "we've been looking at this all wrong." Within an hour, he was presenting his findings to an emergency council meeting, his hologram projected into both the Thunderchild's command center and the Alliance's central chamber. "It's not about technology," he began, his Nigerian accent growing stronger with excitement. "It's about evolution itself. Look at the Lumini." He gestured, and a DNA analog structure appeared. Perfect energy manipulation, achieved through millions of years of directed evolution. The Arcturans. Another structure. Crystal-based neural networks of unprecedented efficiency. Admiral Chen leaned forward. "And humans. We're the evolutionary equivalent of a jury-rigged spacecraft." He smiled. "And that's our greatest strength. Every other species evolved toward perfection in their niche. But humans, we kept everything. Our bodies still produce adrenaline like our tree-dwelling ancestors. We have redundant organs, multiple layers of neural processing, and biological systems that most species would consider wastefully complex." The Alliance representatives stirred uncomfortably. One of the Lumini spoke, their bioluminescence translating directly to speech. "This inefficiency is an advantage. Against the Void Dominion." "Absolutely." Okonjo brought up battle footage. "Look at how they attack. They seek patterns, perfection, predictable responses they can counter. But humans, we're goddamn chaos machines." He highlighted sections of the battle. "When they hit us with psychic attacks, our messy neural architecture gave us natural resistance. When they tried to drain our power, our primitive nuclear engines kept running. When they adapted to our tactics, we switched strategies in ways their pattern-seeking minds couldn't predict. The implications were staggering. Humanity's flaws, their aggression, their paranoia, their stubborn refusal to settle for a single way of doing things, had created a species uniquely suited to combat an enemy that fed on perfection. But Okanjo wasn't finished. There's more. The Void Dominion's biological samples show signs of extreme specialization. They're even more evolved than the Alliance species, pushed beyond normal limits by some external force. They're not just evil for the sake of it. They're running from something that terrified them so much they turned themselves into monsters to survive. The revelation sparked intense debate among the Alliance representatives. The Arcturans argued for immediate genetic research to replicate human adaptability. The Lumini suggested developing new energy matrices based on human neural patterns. But Chen saw something else in Okanjo's data. "Doctor," she interrupted, "if we're so unpredictable to them, why are they attacking in larger numbers? They should be avoiding us." Okanjo's expression grew grave. "Because they're desperate. These attacks aren't just about conquest. They're gathering data, testing responses, looking for weapons they can use against something else. Something worse." As if to confirm his words, alerts blared across the fleet. 3 more systems were under attack. The Void Dominion was adapting, combining their advanced evolution with stolen human tactics. Each victory made them stronger, but also drove them to greater desperation. Chen issued rapid orders, deploying the fleet to meet these new threats. But now they had understanding to match their weapons. Human ships began employing deliberately irregular patterns, their crews trained to embrace chaos rather than fight it. Engineering teams introduced random variables into their systems, making them harder for the enemy to predict and counter. It was warfare unlike anything the galaxy had seen, the product of a species that had never achieved perfection, and was stronger for it. As the battles spread across Alliance space, humanity's flaws became their greatest weapons. Their ability to improvise, their talent for controlled chaos, their stubborn refusal to accept defeat. In his lab, Okanjo continued his research, driven by the certainty that understanding the enemy's evolution was key to victory. But late at night, studying the peculiar patterns of fear in the Void Dominion's biology, he couldn't shake a troubling thought. What could be so terrible that it would drive an entire species to become the very monsters they once fought against? The answer, he suspected, was coming, and humanity's unique evolution might be the only thing standing between it and the death of everything they'd sworn to protect. The crystalline cities of New Arcturus hung in space like intricate snowflakes, their geometric perfection both beautiful and fragile. Admiral Chen stood on the Thunderchild's observation deck, watching the Void Dominion fleet emerge from hyperspace, 10 ships for every one of hers. "Status of the Arcturan Defense Force?" she asked, not turning from the view. Lieutenant Rodriguez consulted her neural feed. "They're confused, Admiral. Their tactical systems can't process our proposed defense strategies. They keep saying our plans lack mathematical elegance." Chen allowed herself a grim smile. "Then we'll teach them the beauty of chaos. Deploy the embedded training teams." Across the Arcturan fleet, human officers who had been living among the crystalline aliens took command of small tactical units. Their task was impossible on paper: teach a species that fought in perfect geometric patterns how to fight like humans. The first Void Dominion attack came exactly as their algorithms predicted, a perfect sphere of advancing ships. The Arcturan defenders moved to counter with their own mathematically precise formation. "All units, execute Operation Broken Mirror," Chen commanded. The human fleet scattered in seemingly random directions, their movements disrupting the elegant battle lines. The Arcturan commanders nearly panicked at the disorder, until their embedded human officers translated the chaos into terms they could understand. Not random movement, but controlled entropy. The Void Dominion's first wave broke against this unpredictable defense. Their energy weapons, calibrated for predictable targets, found only empty space where their calculations said ships should be. Human rail guns and nuclear torpedoes struck from impossible angles, while Arcturan crystal beam weapons fired in deliberately irregular patterns, cut through enemy shields. But the enemy was learning, adapting. Their second wave took on fluid formations, mimicking human unpredictability. That's when Chen unveiled her true strategy. Thunderchild, execute protocol Wounded Prey. Her flagship, the pride of Earth's fleet, began to move erratically, venting plasma and showing signs of critical damage. The Arcturian commanders were horrified. In their culture, displaying weakness was unthinkable. But Chen knew her enemy psychology. The Void Dominion, for all their power, had one critical flaw. They couldn't resist an easy target. Their command ship, a massive vessel that seemed to bend space around itself, moved to deliver the killing blow. That's when the Thunderchild's damage revealed itself as an elaborate deception. Point-blank nuclear torpedoes and concentrated rail gunfire struck the enemy flagship before it could react. The explosion should have been the turning point. Instead, in the moment before their command ship died, the Void Dominion broadcast a message that chilled even the Arcturians' crystalline hearts. We run from worse than death. The remaining enemy ships fled, but Chen couldn't celebrate. She gathered her senior staff in the Thunderchild's secure briefing room, the walls lined with quantum encryption fields. Play back that final transmission, she ordered. Full spectrum analysis. Rodriguez's hands danced over her console. There's more encoded in the carrier wave. It's, my God. The room's holographic display filled with images that defied comprehension. Entire galaxies being consumed by something that existed in dimensions beyond normal space. The Void Dominion hadn't just been attacking. They'd been searching for weapons to use against this greater threat. As the implications sank in, an Arcturian commander entered the briefing room, their crystalline form refracting the holographic light. We have processed the battle data, they announced. Your tactics violated 73 laws of combat efficiency. They should have failed. A pause. We request more human officers to teach us this inefficiency. Chen nodded, but her mind was on the encoded message. The Void Dominion were running from something that devoured not just worlds or species, but reality itself. Their aggression wasn't born of malice, but of desperate survival. Send word to Earth, she ordered. We need every ship, every soldier, every scrap of human ingenuity we can muster. She turned to the Arcturian. And we need your help to understand what we're really fighting. The crystalline being's surface rippled in their equivalent of confusion. But you defeated the enemy. No, Chen said quietly, studying the images of cosmic horror. We just learned who the real enemy is. And if we're going to have any hope of survival, we need to do something even harder than fighting the Void Dominion. She met the Arcturian's gaze. We need to help them. As orders went out across the fleet, Chen couldn't shake the feeling that every battle until now had been a prelude. Humanity had proven they could fight. Now they would have to prove they could do something far more difficult. Forge peace with an enemy driven mad by fear, before the true destroyer of worlds found them all. Lieutenant Maya Rodriguez stood in the wreckage of a Void Dominion vessel, her environmental suit's sensors struggling to process the alien technology surrounding her. The recovery team had been exploring the derelict for hours, but this chamber was different. The walls pulsed with what looked like living circuitry, and in the center floated a device that defied normal spacetime. Dr. Okonjo, she called over the comm. You need to see this. The xenobiologist's voice crackled back. I'm seeing it through your feed. The energy signatures, they're similar to Lumini biotechnology, but twisted, corrupted. Maya moved closer to the central device, her augmented vision capturing every detail. It's some kind of memory core, but it's not storing data the way we do. It's, oh God. The device had activated at her proximity, projecting images directly into her mind. Not data, but memories, emotions, the history of a species that had once been as peaceful as the Lumini before they encountered something that changed them forever. She saw it through their eyes. A darkness between galaxies, a void that consumed not just matter and energy, but space-time itself. The Void Dominion hadn't chosen to become monsters. They'd been forced to evolve or die, changing themselves into living weapons to escape an unstoppable horror. Maya. Okanjo's voice snapped her back to reality. Your neural patterns are going critical. Get out of there. But she couldn't move. The memories were still flooding in, showing her something the Void Dominion had hidden in their attacks. Ships full of children, genetic banks of uncorrupted DNA, desperate attempts to preserve some part of what they had once been. They're not just running, she whispered. They're trying to save what's left of their original species. The revelation sparked a crisis in the Alliance. The Meridian Council convened an emergency session, their usual diplomatic protocols abandoned in favor of heated debate. The Lumini, who had lost worlds to the Void Dominion, demanded immediate military action. The Arcturans calculated that genocide was the most efficient solution. But humanity, led by Admiral Chen, saw something different. We're looking at this wrong, Chen argued before the council. The Void Dominion isn't an invasion force. They're refugees, driven mad by something worse than anything we've imagined. Yes, they've committed atrocities, but not out of choice. The council chamber erupted in protest. Illumini representatives' bioluminescence flashed in anger. They consumed 3 of our worlds. They turned our own people against us because they're traumatized. Dr. Okanjo interjected, his hologram appearing beside Chen. Their entire species has complex PTSD. They attack because they don't know how to ask for help anymore. The debate might have continued indefinitely, if not for what happened next. A Void Dominion ship appeared at the edge of the system, not attacking, but broadcasting on all frequencies. Maya, now recovered and present in the council chamber, translated the message through tears. The children, she said. They're begging us to save the children. Their ship's containment systems are failing. They have 5,000 uncorrupted juveniles in stasis, preserved from before their species transformation. The council froze. The Void Dominion they'd been fighting, the monsters they'd declared irredeemable, had spent centuries trying to preserve their own innocence, hiding ships full of children while they searched for a way to fight the greater darkness. Chen stood, her voice carrying the weight of humanity's own violent history. We've been here before, she said. How many times in human history did we declare enemies irredeemable, only to find out they were fighting out of desperation? How many conflicts ended not through extermination, but understanding? The council chamber fell silent as tactical displays showed the Void Dominion ship waiting, vulnerable. They could destroy it with a single strike. Instead, Chen gave an order that would change the course of the war. Thunderchild, move to assist. Full medical teams, ready for stasis pod recovery. Let's show them not everyone in this galaxy has forgotten how to help. As human ships moved to save the children of their greatest enemy, Maya worked frantically to translate more of the recovered memories. What she found confirmed their worst fears. The darkness was moving again, consuming systems at the galaxy's edge. The Void Dominion hadn't just been attacking Alliance worlds. They'd been searching for allies strong enough to help them fight back. They'd found them in humanity, a species that understood both the necessity of violence and the greater power of mercy. Now the question was whether that understanding would come in time to save them all from what lurked between the stars. Admiral Sarah Chen stood before the Alliance Security Council, her dress uniform pristine, her cybernetic eye fixed on the assembled representatives. Behind her, holographic displays showed the impossible. A Void Dominion refugee ship, its weapons powered down, accepting medical assistance from human vessels. What you're proposing is madness, the Lumini Chancellor pulsed in agitation. Opening diplomatic channels while still under attack. They'll use it against us. They already could, Chen countered. The children we rescued, their genetic structure contains the complete history of their species. They could have used them as bioweapons. Instead, they protected them for centuries, burning through resources they desperately needed. Dr. Okanjo's hologram materialized next to her, displaying neural scans. The Void Dominion's aggression isn't natural. It's a trauma response written into their very DNA. They attack because they literally cannot conceive of safety anymore. But look at this. The display shifted to show recent scans of Void Dominion ships near human vessels. Their attack patterns change when they encounter our ships. They're testing us, yes, but not just for weaknesses. They're looking for something they lost: the ability to trust. Chen launched Operation Lighthouse against direct orders from the Council. The Thunderchild led a fleet of volunteers, ships crewed by humans who understood that sometimes the greatest victory came not from destroying an enemy, but saving them from themselves. The operation began at the borders of contested space. When Void Dominion ships attacked, human vessels responded with a new protocol: measured defense combined with continuous attempts at communication. For every attack repelled, an offer of medical aid or technical assistance followed. "They're calling us insane," Lieutenant Rodriguez reported from her communication station. "Their tactical algorithms can't process why we keep trying to help after they attack." "Good," Chen replied. "Confusion means they're thinking instead of just reacting. Keep broadcasting on all frequencies, not just words, but music, art, stories of human conflicts resolved through understanding." The breakthrough came 6 weeks into the operation. A Void Dominion destroyer, heavily damaged from a battle with the darkness at the galaxy's edge, limped into human-controlled space. Instead of attacking, it transmitted a single question in broken Alliance standard: why help monsters? Chen personally led the response team. The destroyer's crew had suffered massive casualties, fighting something they couldn't defeat, a tendril of the darkness that had followed them into normal space. But more importantly, they had chosen to seek help rather than fight to the death. Dr. Okanjo's trauma specialists discovered something remarkable about Void Dominion psychology. Their transformation hadn't just been physical. They'd rewritten their own minds to survive the horror of the darkness. But human neural patterns, with their chaotic mix of aggression and empathy, resonated with something deep in their original nature. "You're like us," the Void Dominion commander told Chen through a quantum translator. "You know war, but you remember peace. We forgot how to remember." The change wasn't immediate. Even as some Void Dominion ships began responding to Operation Lighthouse, others continued their attacks with desperate fury. But now humanity understood. Each battle was both a fight and a chance to demonstrate a better way. Chen ordered her ships to adapt accordingly. When they had to fight, they fought with precision and power. But the moment an enemy showed any sign of hesitation, any flicker of their original nature, humanity's response changed from destruction to protection. "It's working," Rodriguez reported 1 month later. "Void Dominion combat algorithms are showing increasing irregularities. They're starting to remember who they were." The Alliance Council was stunned by the progress. The Arcturans, who had advocated for genocide, found their perfect calculations disrupted by evidence of redemption. The Lumini, despite their losses, began to see echoes of themselves in the uncorrupted Void Dominion children. But victory brought its own challenges. As more Void Dominion ships sought asylum, they brought warnings of the darkness's approach. The horror that had driven them to become monsters was accelerating, consuming systems faster than ever before. Chen stood on the Thunderchild's observation deck, watching human medical ships dock with their former enemies. They had proven humanity's greatest strength wasn't just the ability to fight, but to see past conflict to the possibility of healing. Now they would need that strength more than ever. Because the darkness was coming, and their only hope lay in uniting with the very species they had been fighting, healing monsters while preparing for a war against something far worse. As Chen issued orders for the next phase of Operation Lighthouse, she couldn't help but wonder, if they could save the Void Dominion from themselves, what else might humanity be capable of? The holographic chamber aboard the Thunderchild shimmered with representations of impossible geometries as the reformed Void Dominion scientists tried to explain what they were facing. Their once monstrous forms, still twisted by centuries of desperate evolution, cast strange shadows on the walls. The darkness exists in dimensions your species hasn't discovered yet, their lead scientist, who had taken the human name Alexandria, explained. It doesn't just consume matter and energy. It devours dimensional space itself. Dr. Okonjo leaned forward, his augmented eyes struggling to process the mathematical models floating before him. But our quantum physics, it's different from what we expected. More primitive, you said. Alexandria's form rippled, and what they had learned was amusement. Primitive, yes. Uncorrupted by over-evolution. You see reality as it is, not as we learn to see it. That might be our salvation. Admiral Chen watched the exchange from her command chair, her cybernetic eye recording everything. Around the Thunderchild, the largest fleet ever assembled in the galaxy's history was gathering. Alliance ships of crystalline beauty, reformed Void Dominion vessels still bearing the scars of their transformation, and human warships that looked crude but held surprising advantages. "Show me what happened to your homeworld," Chen requested. The holographic display shifted, showing a star system much like Earth's. Then the darkness came, not just absence of light, but absence of existence itself. Reality twisted, folded, and simply ceased to be, leaving behind nothing, not even void. "That's why we became what we did," Alexandria said quietly. "We thought we needed to evolve past our limitations to survive. Instead, we evolved past our humanity, what you would call humanity, though we had another word for it." Lieutenant Rodriguez, who had become their primary translator, stepped forward. "The children we rescued. They're showing signs of reverting to your original form. Without the pressure of constant survival, your species' natural state is reasserting itself." "Yes," Alexandria agreed. "Thanks to your protection. But now we must protect you. The darkness has noticed your resistance, your unpredictability. It's coming." As if summoned by the words, alarms blared across the fleet. At the galaxy's edge, sensors detected something that shouldn't have been possible, a wound in space-time itself, spreading like a cancer. "All ships, battle stations," Chen ordered. "Begin Operation Dark Star." The plan was audacious, combining human intuition, Alliance technology, and Void Dominion dimensional science. While their former enemies had tried to fight the darkness with pure power, humanity proposed something different, using their primitive understanding of quantum mechanics to trick it. "The darkness feeds on sophisticated energy patterns," Okonjo explained to the combined fleet commanders. "Our nuclear weapons, our railguns, they're too simple for it to easily consume. And our minds, our tactics, they don't follow the patterns it expects." The first skirmish proved him right. When the darkness reached out with tentacles of unreality, the human ship's erratic movements and simple but powerful weapons actually hurt it. Alliance vessels, guided by human tactical officers, learned to break their perfect formations into controlled chaos. Reformed Void Dominion ships added their dimensional weapons to the mix. But the victory was short-lived. The darkness adapted, learning from each encounter. It was intelligent, ancient, and patient. As it pressed its attack, the fleet was forced to fall back, system by system. "It's hurting us," Chen realized during one particularly brutal retreat. "Every time we fall back, we move closer to populated systems. It's not just hunting. It's playing with its food." The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. During a lull in the fighting, Rodriguez noticed something in the Void Dominion children's genetic code, a pattern that matched fluctuations in the darkness's attacks. "It's not just consuming reality," she reported to Chen. "It's rewriting it. That's why the Void Dominion changed themselves so dramatically. They were unconsciously mimicking the very thing they were running from." The implications staggered everyone. The darkness wasn't just a force of destruction. It was trying to remake the galaxy in its own image. The Void Dominion had nearly succeeded in becoming what it wanted, beings of pure, evolved perfection, stripped of the chaos and uncertainty of natural life. But humanity, in all its glorious imperfection, represented everything it couldn't control. Their illogical decisions, their ability to choose mercy over efficiency, their stubborn refusal to follow predictable patterns. These weren't weaknesses, but weapons against an enemy that fed on precision and perfection. As the fleet regrouped for what everyone knew would be the final battle, Chen looked out at the combined armada. Human ships, ugly but powerful. Alliance vessels, learning to embrace imperfection. Reformed Void Dominion craft, remembering who they had once been. We're not just fighting for survival, she told them in a fleet-wide broadcast. We're fighting for the right to be imperfect, to be unpredictable, to be free. The darkness gathered its strength at the edge of known space, preparing to end this resistance once and for all. But for the first time, in its ancient existence, it faced something it couldn't easily consume. A galaxy united not by perfection, but by the beautiful chaos of life itself. The combined fleet hung in the void between stars, a testament to how far they'd come. Crystalline Alliance ships flew in formation with reformed Void Dominion vessels, while Earth's primitive warships took the lead. On the Thunderchild's bridge, Admiral Sarah Chen watched the impossible unfold on her tactical displays. The darkness was coming. All ships, broadcast final status, she ordered, her cybernetic eye recording these moments for whatever history might survive. Alliance fleet, ready, came the response from the Lumini flagship, its perfect geometries now deliberately disrupted to confuse the enemy's pattern recognition. Void Dominion forces, prepared. Alexandria reported from their command ship, their voice steady despite the proximity of the horror they'd fled for centuries. Lieutenant Rodriguez monitored the quantum communications network they'd built. The weapon is charged, Admiral. Dr. Okonjo reports all systems nominal. The weapon was humanity's greatest gamble, a device that combined Alliance energy manipulation, Void Dominion dimensional science, and human nuclear physics. They called it the Light of Dawn. Remember, Chen broadcast to all ships, we're not just fighting for ourselves. We're fighting for every species that will ever evolve, for every possibility that doesn't fit the darkness's perfect pattern. The enemy arrived not with a bang, but with a whisper. Reality itself began to unravel at the edges of their sensor range. Ships at the fleet's periphery reported dimension readings that drove their computers mad. Here they come, Rodriguez whispered. Multiple dimensional incursions. It's bigger than anything we've seen. The darkness emerged like a cancer in space-time, tentacles of unreality reaching for the fleet. But this time, they were ready. Execute Operation Firewall, Chen commanded. The battle erupted across 11 dimensions. Alliance ships fired crystalline beams that refracted through spaces that shouldn't exist. Reformed Void Dominion vessels unleashed weapons that turned the enemy's dimensional attacks back on itself. And humanity's ships, led by the Thunderchild, did what they did best, the impossible. Nuclear detonation patterns holding. Weapons control reported. The darkness can't predict the quantum decay rates. It's actually hurting it. But the enemy was ancient and powerful. It had consumed countless civilizations, devoured entire galaxies. For every victory the fleet won, the darkness claimed 3 ships, their crews experiencing horrors no being was meant to witness. We're losing the outer defense line, Rodriguez reported, her voice tight. Alliance ships reporting critical failures in their reality anchors. Chen watched the tactical display, seeing the pattern emerge. The darkness wasn't just attacking. It was learning, adapting, becoming stronger with each ship it consumed. Soon it would be unstoppable. Signal the fleet, she ordered. Begin Operation Last Light. The Thunderchild broke formation, driving straight toward the heart of the darkness. Behind it, the rest of the human ships followed, creating a spear of primitive technology aimed at the most advanced threat the galaxy had ever known. Admiral, Alexandria's voice crackled over the quantum comm. You can't. The dimensional stresses at the core will tear us apart, Chen finished. That's the point. Lieutenant Rodriguez signaled Dr. Okonjo. Light of Dawn protocol is now active. The weapon hummed to life in the Thunderchild's heart. Not just a device, but a symbol of what these species had achieved together. Alliance crystals channeled energy in ways that defied physics. Void Dominion technology bent space itself, and at its core, a human nuclear reactor pulsed with the chaotic power of an artificial sun. The darkness sensed the threat. Reality twisted around the fleet as it tried to stop their advance. Ships were torn apart, their crews making the ultimate sacrifice to protect everything they held dear. "We're in range," Rodriguez shouted above the sound of the Thunderchild's hull screaming under dimensional stress. "Light of Dawn is at full power." Chen took one last look at her crew, human, Alliance, and reformed Void Dominion working as one. "To all ships," she broadcast, "it has been an honor. For the galaxy, for life itself. Fire." The Light of Dawn activated, combining the power of 3 civilizations into something new. Not order or chaos, but a perfect balance between them. For a moment, 11 dimensions of reality aligned, and the darkness faced something it had never encountered before: hope. The explosion rewrote the laws of physics themselves. Where the darkness tried to enforce perfect patterns, the Light of Dawn introduced beautiful chaos. Where it sought to consume, the weapon created. The Thunderchild and its escorts were atomized instantly, but their sacrifice sparked a chain reaction that rippled through dimensional space. The darkness screamed, not in pain, but in confusion. For the first time in its ancient existence, it encountered something it couldn't consume or control: the combined strength of species that had chosen to be stronger together than perfect alone. When it was over, the surviving ships found themselves in changed space. Where the darkness had been, new stars were being born. Reality itself had been refreshed, renewed by the sacrifice of those who refused to submit to enforced perfection. The war was over. The galaxy was safe, and in the centuries that followed, the Alliance would tell stories of Earth's fleet, not just as warriors, but as guardians who taught the galaxy that imperfection was not weakness, and that the Light of Dawn always follows the darkest night. On 1,000 worlds, children of every species would look up at the stars and remember how humanity led the way not to victory through power, but to salvation through unity. The ships were gone, but their legacy remained. A galaxy where life was free to evolve, to change, to make mistakes, and to grow stronger from them. And somewhere in the vast cosmos, the Light of Dawn still shines, a testament to what becomes possible when the guardians of alien worlds stand together against the dark.